Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're doing really well. So as the title suggests, today I'm going to be answering your assumptions. I've done a video like this in the past and I did a shout out on Instagram if you have like any updated assumptions that you kind of wanted to ask me and to get my reaction and see if it's true or not. I've got a couple that I was sent from you guys, so if you're not following me on Instagram, my socials are always linked in the description bar below, so you can go and follow me over there and contribute to the next assumptions video if you haven't already. Some of them are really interesting, some of them are juicy. You guys like really want to know personal questions, which is absolutely fine. I have no problems kind of answering these questions. I'm going to keep all of these anonymous barring one, because one was sent through from someone that I know really well personally, but a lot was sent by people that just follow me, that have obviously like seen certain elements of my life and have formed an assumption. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the assumptions. The first assumption was lockdown has been positive for you, and I guess that like in the sense of like nothing negative has happened to like me and my family or my friends. Everyone has stayed healthy, has definitely been obviously like really positive. My heart goes to people that have been like really affected by coronavirus. I just can't imagine it, honestly, and my heart genuinely drops for anyone that has gone through something horrendous, whether that's losing a loved one or whether it's not seeing family. Of course, like for not seeing family and friends for me has been really difficult, but I'm fully aware that there's people in much worse situations than us, and it's not the time to have been selfish. I was very vocal on Instagram right at the beginning about how much I appreciated the time that lockdown forced us to have together as a family, and Heidi has changed so much in the last few months that where we've been forced to be locked down, obviously now we're kind of easing out of it and restrictions are starting to loosen up, which is obviously great to see the other side of it, because at the time it felt like it was going to go on forever. But during lockdown, Heidi has learnt to walk, she has developed so much in her personality. We've just done so much together, and I'm really thankful for the time that lockdown has given us together. And it means that obviously where I've not been working from the office, I've managed to spend so much more time with her. I feel like she's just got so used to having me and Rich at home more than we ever were before, which has obviously been really nice. Rich has been a key worker during this time, and so like he's been at work as normal. He actually works in a factory that make pharmaceutical and like medical supplies, so a really important job at the moment. But where I've been at home, I've obviously been able to do more, and just helping like lighten the load across everyone has just been so nice, and I've just loved the flexibility it's given us. I've still worked from home, so it's not come without its challenges. And when our wedding was cancelled, it was like something that I hadn't really been too affected by coronavirus, other than like obviously not being able to see people, but within my own like personal bubble I felt really content, and actually like we were doing fine. Certain things have happened during the process that have like obviously given you like a bit of a wobble in the road. I've definitely had like downer days to others, but generally I've found it very positive. But then I'm very much one of those people that believes that you need to be positive, otherwise like what's the point of stressing about something you can't control? Just try and see the good in everything. So I would say lockdown has been positive for us in the sense that being able to spend more time as a family has just been really special. The next assumption is you want a big family. And I feel like if you'd have asked me this before I had Heidi, the answer probably would have been yes. I always imagined having like 3 children, and I definitely wanted like a bigger family than I had at home. Like growing up, it was obviously my mum, my dad, me and my sister, and I always kind of wanted more of a unit than that. But now that we've had Heidi and we obviously know what goes into kind of like having a child and the financial side of things, and also how our unit works together, I definitely only want one more child after Heidi. It's definitely been a conversation that Rich and I have had like at different times, and the outcome's kind of been differently. But I feel like right now, kind of generally speaking, I can only imagine us with 2 children in general. And I feel like the smaller our family unit in terms of like not having many more children than that just means that we can do more as a family. So that's going on more holidays, we can have like a house to fit, they can have their own bedrooms and things like that, that I just think we would rather do more with less children than have more children and do less. Growing up for me, I always kind of wanted to go on these like abroad school holidays, and we're hoping that we're able to give them those opportunities. But obviously if we had more than 2, I just don't think financially it'd be possible to do everything. So yeah, I always envisioned having a larger family, but now that I have a child, I feel like my opinions and thoughts on it kind of have changed for the moment. Obviously that's not to say that it might change again when we have another one. I just don't know, and that's kind of the beauty in life, is that things aren't set in stone. You can just change your mind, and if you both agree, then that's absolutely fab. But I just think that I always envisioned having a bigger family than I think that I'll probably have, if that makes sense. The problem is when you have a child and you're vocal about having a child online, you get a lot of assumptions about having further children, and it's definitely one of my pet peeves since becoming a mum, is that the question I've probably received most since having Heidi is, when are you going to have another one? And this next assumption kind of goes down that line. So the third assumption says, you're going to have a baby now, your wedding is cancelled. The answer to that is no. It's definitely not like, oh, our wedding's cancelled, let's take this opportunity to have a baby. Obviously, like in an ideal world, if financial things were never a problem, I always wanted to have children closer together than further apart. But if you have not kind of kept up with my recent videos, Rich and I have actually changed our mindset from having the wedding that we had booked, that we've since cancelled because of coronavirus, and we're actually put in that money and also like our time and our savings into buying a house instead. So I feel like that's where our priorities have changed. So instead of getting married, we're going to buy a house instead, which is obviously really, really exciting. But I can see where people think if you're not getting married, then like having a child, it kind of almost seems like the best opportunity to. But for us, our priorities is really trying to get a house before we have another child. So the next assumption says you're low-key gutted about your wedding, and yeah, absolutely. I think that when we were first told about all the changes that were coming to Disney, and we had to make a decision whether we were going or not based on knowing that there was like quarantine involved, you'd have to wear face masks and things like that. When we first decided that we weren't going to go this year, and obviously the wedding that we had planned and booked and like basically paid for, we weren't going to go ahead with, I definitely had one of my downer days whilst in lockdown, because of course the thing that we were literally gearing towards for months, I have my wedding dress in this room. So much of like our efforts and our savings and just attitude has been towards our wedding that would have been in October. So having to decide ourselves that we're not going to go ahead with it is gutting. And it was definitely, when we made that decision, I definitely had like a down like day, because I just felt like everything we were looking forward to had like gone. But then when Rich and I spoke about it, we kind of realised that we could put any money that we had saved already towards buying a property, and that we can kind of try and continue our savings journey into buying a house. And so I've done a whole video on like tips that we have started to do and implement in order to save more money. So I'll leave that linked above and down below if you want to watch that video, if that's something that you're interested in learning more about. But of course I was gutted. I think so many people have had so many different plans cancelled, and you know, it's just one of those things, isn't it? We could never have predicted what was coming, but then also I feel like things have happened at the right time, and everything happens for a reason almost. The next assumption says you wear the pants in your relationship. I don't really put my relationship online at all, and no one kind of knows our dynamics. Like Rich has never been in front of the camera with me, and so I just find it really funny that kind of people presume that from the way I am online. But Rich and I are actually such a good couple, we're such a team, and I don't feel like either one of us kind of wears the pants in any sense. I feel like everything we do together, and there's definitely not a more dominant decision maker in the relationship. Even when it comes to Heidi, everything we do we agree on together, and there's very, very little compromise really in terms of like our beliefs and things that we want to do, things that we want to achieve. We're so on the same path, it's actually scary at times. I don't feel like either one of us kind of wears the pants in the relationship. I just think that we're both so good at seeing each other's perspective, and so it kind of just feels very, very equal. It'll be interesting to see if he agrees on that, but I just feel like generally we are such a good team, and everything is just so jointly agreed that neither one of us kind of has like a more authoritative figure. So next assumption says you'd like to move to a city. If you don't know much about like our past, then Rich and I used to live on the outskirts of London. We kind of lived in the like London Middlesex border. We actually lived on the Metropolitan line, and so I feel like we've kind of had the like London experience by living there for 3 years. We lived there because I went to uni and Rich came with me, which was just the most amazing kind of couple of years. And it was definitely so different for us because we both come from Devon, and then we returned to Devon after because we realised how much we loved it and missed it. I'm also such a family girl, and the thought of being away from our family, both of our families live in the same town that we live in at the moment, and so the thought of not being that close to either one of our families genuinely would break my heart. And I think especially now we have a child, we would never move too far away. Perhaps we'd move to like a neighbouring town. It kind of depends whether we buy a house and like what kind of the options are at the time, but I don't think we'd ever move out of Devon again. I definitely wouldn't want to move to a city. I love the fact that I grew up in Devon and my childhood was just the most amazing thing ever. I had so much like freedom, it's so safe, it's such a nice community feel to it, and I love the fact that Heidi's going to experience that too. The schools are great, and yeah, I just feel like moving to a city, especially with a child, would just not be something that we'd want to do. So the next assumption says you're not religious, and that's true. I don't kind of believe in like a god, or I don't believe like in a specific religion. However, I would say that I am quite spiritual, and I really believe like in the law of attraction and meditation and that kind of side of things. So it's definitely not like a religion, but I still kind of feel like there's more than just what we are. I don't really know 100% kind of what I believe in. I just believe that there's something more, and like the way that the universe works I think is just so complex, and there's just so much more than we know. I'd love to have like a psychic reading, and I really believe in that. And yeah, I definitely don't think I'm religious, but I definitely believe in something. So the next assumption is another baby one, and it says you want another girl. And Rich and I actually spoke about this a couple of nights ago. I come from a family that have just had girls. I mentioned this in my pregnancy updates when I was doing those when I was pregnant with Heidi, that my expectation was always that I was going to have girls because my mum has only girls, my aunties only have girls, my nan only had girls, and like when you look back at my family tree on my mum's side, it's literally just girls. That's all that the family produce. However, on my dad's side and on Rich's side, there are kind of boys in the family. So whilst I was always set on thinking I was going to have a girl, when it came to actually being pregnant, I really wasn't sure what way it was going to go. And Rich and I were talking about this the other day actually, because we've saved all of Heidi's old clothes, and we said if we have a girl the next time around, then it's worth saving everything, because then they can make use out of all of Heidi's stuff. But also in the other respect, I feel like having a boy would be really cool too, because we'd have like one of each. But then having a girl would mean that Heidi would have a sister, and it'd be so much cheaper because we have so much that they could also make use out of. So I don't really mind, honestly. I feel like the first time around I really wish that I was going to have a girl, and obviously that was the case. But I feel like second time around I'd see the benefits in either, and I really don't mind. And again, like when it comes down to it, as long as your baby is healthy, it doesn't matter what you have at all. But if I could choose, I really wouldn't mind. I think Rich would really like to have a boy though, and I think that if I asked him this question, he probably would really like to have a boy, just because it's like a dad's wish to have a boy, I suppose. But he also said like having a girl would be cheaper, and also now he was like, I feel like I'm a girl dad, and we've done it once with a girl and we kind of just know how to look after a girl. And he just said it would be really weird to have a boy, because even though they're the same, it would just feel so different. So I don't really have a preference, and again, if we're lucky enough to have another child, then as long as they're healthy, I really don't mind. The next assumption says you won't document your next pregnancy online. If you didn't know, when I was pregnant with Heidi, kind of like I mentioned already, every single week I updated you on my pregnancy and I did videos, and I really enjoyed that. And genuinely I think that next time around I will still document my pregnancy, because my pregnancy is something I'm going through. I talk about how I'm feeling, how I'm looking, and I love the fact that I have those videos to look back on. And I've looked back on a few at times because I don't really remember being pregnant. It's really strange. I don't really remember like having a bump, and so looking back at those videos and seeing my bump is just really special actually. So I definitely will do pregnancy updates the next time around. Will they be weekly? I don't know. Will I include as much as I did before? I don't know. I kind of want to just see as and when it happens. Will I still be making YouTube videos? Who knows? But I would really like to document it because I think it's really nice to have them to look back on. However, I think next time around I won't share as much postpartum. So I did a lot of pregnancy updates. I definitely want to do the pregnancy updates, but the postpartum updates I felt like I kind of shared too much, as in like personally too much, and I feel like detaching myself from that element would be better the next time around, because then I'm not kind of talking about like different dynamics, it's just more about me. But yeah, I feel like when I'm pregnant it'll be fine, but when the baby's here I feel like I'm going to be a little bit more reserved about sharing them online like I did Heidi when she was first born, because I just feel like now I've become so much more like knowledgeable in that area that I've just, sharing her online too much just does scare me a lot. The next question says, you miss Heidi being a tiny baby. I think that every single mum misses their baby being newborn. I tell you what, I just remember being there in the hospital, lying down after I had an emergency C-section with her, lying on my chest in the hospital ward once Rich had to go, and I was just there with her on my own, and I just felt this enormous love like just suddenly develop for her, and I just looked down at her and I was just like, this is just the most special thing. And it's like now I can relive that moment, because in my mind I was like, this is the most overwhelming thing that I've ever been through, and I just loved having her so tiny and newborn and tiny and just squishy, and it was just the best. So of course I miss that, because it was just such an emotional roller coaster and it was just so overwhelming, and I've never felt love like I did when I gave birth to her. I just feel like it was just the most special thing ever, and her just being so tiny and squishy and being here, but also knowing that she was okay and we were the other side of birth was genuinely the best thing ever. And when they're so small and they sleep all day and cuddle up on you, it's just so overwhelmingly beautiful. Obviously they then grow, but I do find that now that Heidi's got a lot older, now Heidi is 19 months old, I still work in the mindset of months, because I just think it's ingrained in you when you have a baby. So sorry for being that mum that refers to their child being however many months old, but I do feel like now is so much fun because she's got such a personality. She's so cheeky and just so loving as well. She has her own way of doing things, and I find it crazy just how quickly they change from being so tiny and just clueless on anything that is going on. They just sleep all day, drink milk, and that's all that they want, and poop a lot. But now it's just actually seeing her grow into a person, not knowing what she was going to be like at birth, and now seeing her become the person that she is now going to keep growing into, is just so magical too. So I love the age she's at now, but I think every mum will say that they miss their newborn cuddles. The penultimate question says, you have names for your next child picked out already? The answer to this is no. Rich and I had such a journey when it came to picking out Heidi's name, and we only kind of went with Heidi because it was the name that I always imagined having my little girl called, and Rich vetoed it very quickly. He was like, no, I'm not having my girl called Heidi, and I think I just genuinely like wore on him, and we couldn't think of a different name. And I just feel like when it comes to like children's names, it's so difficult. But we're not a couple that has like a list of baby names on our phone that we've agreed on. I have definitely like my preferences of names, and he has his, and they do not meet in the middle at all. So I think it's just gonna be one of those where we cross that bridge when we get to it, because we don't know. Genuinely, I have no idea. We definitely don't know what our next one's going to be called. Like if we had a baby right now and had to name it right now, we would struggle so much, because I just don't think that we could agree on a name without having like months to like heat it out, because it's so hard picking a name, and then it's also such a commitment because you can't just change it. So yeah, no, we don't have our names of our children next picked out. The last assumption was actually sent from my best friend Leanne, who moved to Texas. So rude of her. And it just says, you miss your best friend like crazy, and so much. I can't believe that you're actually in America. It still baffles me to this day that you actually like just did it. She's just like the most fearless person that I know, but how amazing for her, her partner and her little boy to grow up in Texas, which is just amazing. Of course, Heidi misses growing up with Rupert, and I think that they would have been the best of friends if you'd have stayed here, but it does give us an excuse to go to Texas, and it's a perfect place to go on holiday and visit. So of course I miss you, and it feels so strange to know you're not just half an hour away from me anymore, but I know that we'll definitely see you soon, and hopefully we'll be enjoying the American heat soon, because that's really exciting. And of course she's buying a house in America, which is also very, very cool. She's just doing so well. So as much as I miss her, I'm also so proud for just living her best life. Thank you so much if you sent an assumption through to me on Instagram. Like I said, to get involved in my next assumptions video, or any video for that matter, I normally go to Instagram first for like your advice or input or things like that. Like I said, just follow me on Instagram. My links are down below for you to check out, and then that way you won't miss my future video and getting involved. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Give this video a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe down below for more videos of me, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.